Meteorologist this is James Lomov here with Dynamic Weather Agency LLC, giving you your weather forecast update on this November 18th, 2021. We're going to be talking about this 1-2 punch of cold air bringing below average temperatures to the eastern half of the United States. Also, some lake effect snow conditions today and tomorrow across Lake Superior, Michigan, Erie, and Ontario, along with precipitation across parts of the Northeast, down through the Mid-Atlantic, and into parts of the Mississippi Valley region and the Southeast. As I mentioned in today's video, we're going to be talking about that 1-2 punch of cold air along with precipitation and snow showers. First, we're going to take a look at our current radar, our satellite imagery, and some of our current conditions that we got going on before we get into those National Weather Service hazards along with our winter storm severity index for today due to some of that lake effect snow. And then we'll get into our weather models talking about forecasted snowfall, precipitation, even those below average temperatures, and even taking a look at our December forecast. Now, like I said, this morning, taking a look at our current radar, we do have some snow showers across parts of the northern Great Lakes area into Minnesota and Wisconsin this morning, along with some lake effect snow across the UP of Michigan. Rain showers stretching across from the eastern Great Lakes through the Ohio Valley and into the Tennessee Valley region up towards the Mississippi, northern Mississippi and Alabama, where we have that cold front continuing to push eastward across the area, along with some rain conditions occurring back across parts of the Pacific Northwest, along with some mountain snow conditions in the higher elevations. Now, as we take a look at our current satellite, again, we see a lot of those cloud cover across parts of the Pacific Northwest where we have that moisture transport bringing some of those rain conditions and those mountain snow conditions back to the region today. High pressure across parts of the Central Plains today, bringing clear skies. And then you can see that cold front stretching across parts of the eastern Great Lakes all the way back through the Tennessee Valley, even stretching backwards towards the Texas region where we have some of that cold air beginning to push on into the area. Again, taking a look at our surface analysis today, that area of low pressure that was over Manitoba yesterday in Western Ontario has now pushed up towards the Hudson Bay region with that cold front that was draped yesterday from Michigan all the way through Missouri into Oklahoma and Texas has pushed eastward, as now across parts of the eastern Great Lakes down towards Tennessee, Mississippi, and through Louisiana and parts of eastern Texas today. And we have a lot of that cold air funneling on in, and you can see we still have some of those tight isobars across parts of the Great Lakes region into the Ohio Valley. Again, along the cold front, we'll see some gusty winds up in the Appalachian Mountain region, along with some gusty winds today across parts of Texas with that high pressure and that developing low near Louisiana. As you take a look at some of our current wind gusts this morning across parts of the Great Lakes, again, winds this morning are around 20 to 30 miles an hour, even approaching 35 miles an hour in some areas across Minnesota into parts of northern Iowa this morning, seeing some gusty conditions with some of those tighter isobars this morning, not prompting any wind advisories or wind warnings today. As we aren't seeing wind gusts up to 40 to 50 miles an hour as we were seeing yesterday. Again, across the Appalachian Mountain region, across parts of Western Virginia, we're seeing wind gusts up in the mid to upper 20s and into the low 30s. As you can see here near Richwood, 31, Charleston, 29, Spencer, 27, Clarksburg, 30. And then again, like I said, we're seeing some wind gusts across parts of Texas today in the mid to upper 20s, approaching 30 miles per hour, 28 in Waco, 25 in Austin, 25 in San Angelo, 27 in Brownwood, 24 in Tyler, and 28 in Dallas with 23 near Houston. Temperatures this morning quite cool in the northern plains, in the teens, even into the 20s, all the way down into parts of New Mexico. But warm conditions today across the eastern coast, especially into the mid-Atlantic, where this morning temperatures were already in the 60s and near the 70s across the extreme eastern coast of North Carolina, South Carolina, all the way down towards Savannah, Jacksonville, and in Florida with 81 near Miami. As we take a look at some of those current National Weather Service hazards this morning, we do have some winter weather advisories across the Pacific Northwest and Washington and Idaho. And then we have some winter weather advisories and winter storm watches across parts of the Great Lakes region, where we have some lake effect snow expected today into tomorrow. Like I said, we have some winter weather advisories for the first snow of the season expected for many towns late this evening, this afternoon into Friday morning, where a winter weather advisory is in effect from 4 p.m. this afternoon till about 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time on Friday, where wet snow is expected with total snow accumulations from 1 to 3 inches, mainly above 2,000 feet, with local amounts around 4 inches possible in the West Plains between the Airway Heights and Davenport. This is going to include places like Rockford, Spokane Valley, Fairfield, Hayden, Post Falls, Airway Heights, and like I said, downtown Spokane and Davenport. And plan on some slippery road conditions along with hazardous conditions for the morning commute on Friday for these areas. Again, lake effect snow conditions are expected to develop across the UP of Michigan with lake effect and blowing snow, with snow accumulations of 2 to 4 inches, with locally higher amounts in the higher terrains, with wind gusts occasionally could be near 40 miles per hour. And with some of these intense snow squalls, there is going to be the possibility for some reduced visibilities at times in some areas due to those blowing snow conditions. So plan on slippery roads and patchy blowing snow, causing significant reductions in visibility, and hazardous conditions can impact commutes this morning on Thursday and this evening. Again, we are continuing to see some of those actually snow squalls already developing across the UP of Michigan, and those are expected to continue as those winds increase on the backside of that low pressure system. And then we're also seeing lake effect snow conditions across Lake Erie, where heavy lake effect snow is possible, with snow totals anywhere from 4 to 7 inches possible. And this is going to be in effect from this evening till about Friday morning, 7 a.m. Friday morning Eastern Standard Time. And travel could be difficult with the hazardous conditions, including morning commutes. And temperatures will drop into the upper 20s, low 30s, and will likely cause road surfaces, especially bridges and overpasses, to cool enough to allow snow to accumulate across these areas, along with those winter weather advisories surrounding that for generally 2 to 3 inches of snow, with locally higher amounts of 4 to 7 inches. And again, this is going to be in effect until about Friday morning or early afternoon till about 1 p.m. in some of those areas. Again, plan on some of those slippery road conditions, and you may encounter some heavy lake effect snow bands, so you may have to slow down due to some of those reductions in visibilities to avoid accidents. We also are seeing lake effect snow conditions on Lake Ontario in effect from 11 p.m. this evening to about 11 a.m. On Friday for lake effect snow, with snow totals around 3 to 6 inches across these areas. And again, plan on hazardous road conditions. Now, taking a look at our winter storm severity index. Again, this index is taking a look at the snow amount, so basically taking a look at how much snow is going to be falling and the rate in which the snow is going to be falling. It's also taking a look at the snow load. Is this going to be a light fluffy snow or a wet heavy snow, along with some wind conditions for blowing snow, reductions of visibility with that ground blizzard, along with the potential for surfaces to become ice covered, along with the amount of ice accumulations if ice is to develop. So our winter storm severity index is showing limited to minor impacts, mainly across Lake Erie, where some of those higher snowfall totals are going to be, and here in Washington, where we have some of those winter weather advisories in effect. And again, those minor impacts are roughly equating to those NWS advisory level criteria, with minimal impacts to society. Taking a look at our HRRR Futurecast radar, again, you'll see that lake effect snow continue to develop today across parts of the UP and Michigan, and then across parts of western Michigan, all the way from Traverse City all the way down to basically South Bend, where we can see lake effect snows develop. And then we'll see some of those intense snow bands develop across Lake Erie, all the way from basically Buffalo down towards Erie and even towards the Cleveland area. And then we'll see some of those lake effect snow bands develop north of Syracuse, where we'll see some snowfall totals. Now, taking a look at our 72-hour forecasted snowfall forecast, taking a closer look at the Pacific Northwest, we'll see some snow across parts of the Olympic Mountains, the Cascades, and the Northern Rockies, and across that area from Yakima to Spokane, where we can see a snowfall of 1 to 3 inches with some isolated higher amounts in there. But mostly, most of the snow is going to be confined to the higher elevations across parts of the Cascades, where we can see 5 to 8 inches of snow with some isolated areas near west of Yakima of 8 to 12 inches. Similar conditions across parts of the Olympic Mountains, and then mainly 3 to 5 inches across parts of the Northern Rockies, across parts of Idaho, western Montana, until we get to parts of the Rockies near Idaho Falls, where we can see some 8 to 12 inches of snow across some of the higher elevations across that area. Again, taking a look at some of the snow across the UP of Michigan, for the most part expecting 1 to 3 inches of snow from Ironwood towards Iron River, with most of the heavier snowfall across the eastern portion of the UP of Michigan, where we can see some intense lake effect snow bands near the Newberry area, where we can see 5 to 8 inches of snow within that region. Across parts of western Michigan, mainly only expecting 1 to 3 inches of snow, maybe some more higher snowfall across east of Traverse City all the way up towards Young State Park region, where we could see maybe some pockets of 3 to 5 inches, but for the most part only expecting 1 to 3 inches of snow from Sturgis up through Kalamazoo, Grand Rapids, up towards Cadillac and Traverse City and Young State Park. That's what I'm mostly expecting across those regions. And then taking a look all the way from Cleveland towards Buffalo, inland, where we're going to see some of those lake effect snow accumulations, mainly 1 to 3 inches with a narrow area where we can see 3 to 5 with isolated 5 to 8 inches of snow near Jamestown and Olean. And then again, taking a look at Lake Erie, mostly 1 to 3 with some pockets of 3 to 5 inches with some isolated maybe 6 inches within that region. Now, what we're seeing right now is we're seeing this deep trough move on through parts of the northern plains, northern Great Lakes region, with ridges on both sides, bringing warm conditions to the western coast and the southwest, and warm conditions today across parts of the northeast and the mid-Atlantic. Again, taking a look at our 850 millbar, again, you can see some of that below average cool air pushing on in the backside of this cold front, above average temperatures ahead of the cold front, right behind that warm front as that warm front continues to lift north into Canada, and then those above average temperatures with that ridging across parts of the southwest and across the western portion of the United States. Again, you can see that how those ridges and those troughs play into effect with our temperatures. Now, as we go on through time, that trough axis is going to continue to push eastward, and a slight ridge is going to build in behind that, bringing more milder conditions and a zonal flow across the United States for a brief period of time. But as we take a look at the end of this loop, you can see some of that cooler air back up in British Columbia that's going to be pushing on in. That's going to be our next storm system that we'll be taking a look at here in just a little bit. Now, taking a look at our temperature pattern, like I said, overall, we have ridging across the western United States, troughing across the eastern United States, bringing below average temperatures on across the eastern portions of the United States, basically the eastern half, east of the Rockies, while west of the Rockies is going to be those above average temperatures, with slight above average temperatures today across parts of the northeast, across the mid-Atlantic, and the southeast. Now, as we take a look at our day 5 through 10, you can see we're going to see similar conditions as that second push of cooler air moves on in, ridging, but a deeper trough across parts of the eastern half of the United States. Again, take a look at this. That one frontal system and that trough axis is going to push on through. We have those moderate temperatures, and then we have this really deep trough that's going to be moving on into the eastern half of the United States, the mid-Atlantic and the southeast, and it's going to pack a punch of cold air. Take a look at this. Here's that snapshot. We're going to see some cooler temperatures moving on into the Pacific Northwest, quick ridging right behind this blast of cold air, bringing warm conditions to the central portions of the United States, to the basically the Great Plains, the southern plains, and even to the northern plains. But take a look at what the eastern third of the United States is going to see. Really cold conditions. I want to even show you this here. Take a look at our 850 millibar temperature anomalies. Take a look at how much more colder that air is going to be across parts of the mid-Atlantic and the southeast as that cold air funnels in behind that cold front. And I just want to show you this. Take a look at our 1,000 to 500 millibar thickness contours. Taking a look at this, we're well below 528 decameters, and even going to get well below 540 decameters, which is our rain snow line. And you can see some of those 510 decameter temperatures trying to intrude into parts of the northern plains, and that is indicative of Arctic air. So this is going to be sort of a Arctic blast to parts of the northern plains, especially across parts of the northern Great Lakes into North Dakota and Minnesota, where some really cool temperatures are going to be funneling on in. Now, taking a look at our 2-meter temperature anomalies. Temperature anomalies can range anywhere from 10 to almost 30 degrees below average for some as this cold front pushes on in, basically to start off our Thanksgiving week. Taking a look at parts of the northern plains into the northern Great Lakes. Again, take a look at that across parts of North Dakota into Minnesota. Temperatures 20 to almost 30 degrees below average, while basically the Corn Belt into the Great Lakes region can anywhere see from 10 to 15 degrees below average. As we continue on Monday the 22nd across parts of the Ohio Valley into the Mid-Atlantic, temperatures 15 to 20 degrees below average, and by the time we get into Tuesday across parts of the Southeast, temperatures 20 to 30 degrees below average for some. Now, as we take a look at our temperatures, now here we are for Sunday. Now, as we get into Sunday, we'll start to see that cool air begin to start to intrude its way into parts of the northern plains and the northern Great Lakes, into parts of the central plains. As we get into Monday morning, here we are. Here's our low temperatures for Monday morning. Again, you'll start to see that cooler air begin to start spilling on into the region. Lows into the single digits, into the 20s as you get into parts of the northern Great Lakes and upper Mississippi Valley region. By the time we get into Monday for our maximum temperatures, you can see temperatures are going to be well below average for parts of the Great Lakes region, into the Ohio Valley, even all the way down into parts of the Tennessee Valley region. Here we are for Tuesday morning. Here we are for Tuesday. Here's our maximum temperatures, below average temperatures all the way across the Appalachia, into the Tennessee Valley, Mid-Atlantic, and across parts of the Southeast. And then by the time we get into Wednesday morning, all those temperatures are going to be below average across parts of the Southeast. And here we are for Wednesday. Now, taking a look at our total precipitation all the way out through Wednesday, the 24th, we're pretty much going to see a lot of precipitation across parts of the Pacific Northwest. And this is going to be due to those atmospheric river events going to continue across this area, bringing back those potentials for flooding and even mudslides across the region. We'll also see some wet conditions across parts of southern Florida, and then we'll also see a band of heavy rain across parts of the eastern Great Lakes all the way down through West Virginia, Kentucky, and Tennessee. And that's going to be from both of those cold frontal positions, cold frontal passages that we'll see through the area, along with some wet conditions across parts of the Northeast, into parts of Maine, Vermont, and New Hampshire. Now, taking a look at our days 6 through 10 precipitation outlook, for the most part, we'll be seeing some wetter conditions across parts of the southern half of the lower 48, into the Northeast, with drier conditions across the Pacific Northwest, the West, into the Great Lakes, for the most part, as we have some dry air move on in behind those fronts. Taking a look at the European model now, again, we'll watch that cold front continue slide its way to the south and east, with lake effect snow conditions developing on the backside of this low across the UP of Michigan, Lake Erie, Lake Ontario. Drier conditions mostly for the central plains all the way down to the southern plains and the northern plains, with that atmospheric river event and some wet conditions across parts of the Pacific Northwest, with mountain snow conditions occurring, drying up by the time we get into Saturday as high pressure and a ridge develops over the western portion of the United States, with some light snow showers across the Rockies on Saturday. By the time we get into Sunday morning, we'll see that new area of low pressure begin to develop, some of that snow developing on the backside into the northern plains, northern Great Lakes, with some showers and precipitation developing across the Ohio Valley, across Indiana, into Kentucky and Tennessee, back towards Arkansas. And that is going to gradually develop throughout the day, bringing some rain showers across the Ohio Valley, Tennessee Valley, down towards the Gulf Coast states into Mississippi. And that will continue to push its way eastward into the Mid-Atlantic and to the Northeast, with more lake effect snow conditions developing on the backside of this low. And this is where we're going to have that intrusion of some of that really cold air as high pressure develops across the northern plains, central plains, all the way down to the southern plains and across the Rockies. All that cold air is going to be funneling on in behind that system. Drier conditions across there, which is what we were seeing on our CPC forecasts for the most part. Again, lake effect snow conditions, and here's where all that rain is going to be moving on into the parts of the Northeast, across parts of Maine, as this system continues to push on across the area, pushing out on Tuesday into Wednesday, with some energy coming back in across parts of the Rockies on Wednesday, bringing some mountain snow conditions to the northern Rockies and the Rocky Mountains, before we begin to see some more snow develop across parts of the Pacific Northwest with our atmospheric river on Thursday morning, with the potential for a new area of low pressure developing on the lee side of the Rockies Thursday, potentially bringing some snow to parts of Colorado, into New Mexico, and maybe transitioning into a storm system that could be bringing some snow to parts of the mid-Mississippi Valley region and the Corn Belt. Before we can continue with today's video, hit that like button down below, subscribe to our channel, and share this video with your friends and family. It does help out with that YouTube algorithm, allowing my videos to be reached by more people, and me doing my part as a Weather Ready Nation ambassador and helping promote a Weather Ready Nation. Last but not least, that description section does have the links to our social media where you can give us a follow and send us your weather related photos and videos. Love to share them here on the channel and on our social media. And there's also the link down there for our website, dynamicweatheragency.com, where you can find more weather related information, including a blog post about today's video. Look at our day 6 through 10 temperatures: warm across the western half, cooler across the eastern half. And then as we move into our day 8 through 14, wet across the Pacific Northwest, still wet across parts of the eastern half through the mid-Atlantic and the southeast, down through the southern Mississippi Valley, dry across the central portion of the United States, with our temperatures still warm in the west, cool in the east. Now, as we take a look at our December forecast, now by the Climate Prediction Center, wet across the Pacific Northwest, wet across the Great Lakes, dry across the southern half. Here's our temperature for December: warm across the southwest, in the western portions of the United States, and along the southern half in the southeast. Now, taking a look at the CFS model. The CFS model is in agreement across wetter across the Pacific Northwest, wet across the Great Lakes region, dry across the southern half of the United States. It is also in agreement for warmer conditions across the southwest and the western portion of the United States, along with warm conditions across parts of the southern portion into the southeast. And this is due to that continuation of those cooler than normal ocean temperatures across the equatorial Pacific, and this is due to that La Nina. We have a lot of upwelling of cooler ocean waters across South America, strong trade winds affecting those ocean waters westward across the Pacific, bringing us into those La Nina conditions. Taking a look at our current ENSO index, where right now we're still at a negative 0.825, indicating we still have a pretty moderate La Nina occurring, and we're not going to move on out of this La Nina anytime soon. It won't be until sometime about late spring to early summer until we may move on out of this La Nina into neutral conditions or into a El Nino. And with La Ninas, here's our typical weather pattern that we expect: wetter across the Pacific Northwest, cooler conditions across parts of the northern plains into the northern Great Lakes, wetter conditions across the Great Lakes, and drier and warmer conditions across parts of the southwest, the southern half of the United States, even across the mid-Atlantic and the southeast. Taking a look at the November pattern, that's what we saw by the Climate Prediction Center. Wet across the Pacific Northwest, wet across the Great Lakes, drier conditions across parts of the southern half of the lower 48. Also drier conditions across the southern half of the lower 48. And like we just mentioned, we're continuing that pattern as we go through December with our precipitation and our temperatures. And even the NMME forecast even also agrees with that: warmer across the southern half of the United States, some cooler air potentially moving on into the Pacific Northwest and into the northern plains, but wetter conditions across the Pacific Northwest, drier across the southern half of the lower 48, and wetter across the Great Lakes for December, January, and February.